Hello folks, we're back again here. Next installment on this redo of an old knife here. I've got the edges kind of relieved on this thing, and I'm almost thinking I'm about there. You can see I've left the wood just a tiny bit proud here of the liner, of the two sides of the liner there and the backing. I do have the profile cut for the button and the lock, and I've got the blade in a state right now where it actually does operate properly. What I'm a little worried about here is my design here of my brass pivot pin. So when I go to pin this over on both sides to kind of rivet it in place, I'm going to have to be really careful because there's a fairly tight tolerance. Let me get a little pointer here. Tight tolerance between the bore of the blade, the hole that's going through the blade and pivoting on this brass rod now. So there's only a couple 3/1000ths clearance on that. I had a heck of a time, as I told you before in the last one, getting this opened up because of the when I welded it. Obviously that can, depending on how much heat you put, it was a very small spot that I welded, but on high carbon steel like this, the carbon can actually come out of solution in certain areas, and the carbon fences, or what makes it hard, they can become very brittle and extremely hard. And to alleviate that hardness, generally you anneal it, bring it back up to a temperature where the carbon kind of relaxes back in solution and forms other types of bonds with the steel around it. But having said that, if I put this on an anvil, I'm going to cut this to the proper length. Obviously, I'm going to cut this off so there's very little sticking out, and then this side is going to be put on an anvil, and then we're going to whack the heck out of the other side. The problem is whacking the heck out of it. There's a chance that you could expand the middle of that rivet, meaning you'll make it kind of look like a whiskey barrel kind of deal, where the middle kind of forms outward because you're compressing the entire length of that shaft there. So there's a possibility that as I pin this thing over, it could lock into the bore of the blade, and then that would be a big problem because I probably couldn't get it back out again without drilling it out or something like that. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Probably I'm going to use a very light ball peen hammer and perhaps countersink both sides just a little bit, and then kind of carefully pin that over. Because in theory, it is a structural part of the knife. It's now holding the halves together. The wood is going to be, epoxied to the liner. So the two liner halves are going to be attached to the outside. But now I'm gonna be left with 3 attachment points here to affix the two halves together, really. So those have to be, I'm not too worried about these down here, this one and the one on the back end of the knife here. I can go I don't have to be quite as careful. This, you can see, has a spacer, so I can put quite a bit of pressure on that and get that attached. The problem is this other end, where basically the whole end is open for the blade, to swing through its arc. So if I close this up again, you can see it's pretty open all the way back to a small section back here. So it's possible for a couple of things to go wrong here. Obviously, to expand the center, as I said before, and to get it too tight where I kind of pinch this together and then the blade will not function properly. So I'm waiting for some epoxy to come, and I haven't decided what kind of a finish I'm going to put on this, if I'm going to checker it, or I was thinking of doing some electrical discharge kind of wood burning, maybe put a lightning bolt kind of pattern along this thing. I'm not 100% sure. I do have an old oil burner ignition transformer. It runs about 10,000 volts, which would do it. I don't know. We'll see. So the jury's still out. I got to wait for some more parts, and then we'll continue with the next installment. Thanks for watching.